Hello, folks. It's Top Gun here, and I've got a good one for you today. Oh, I do. I've got a special guest here. Just Ask Jesse. That's right. Just Ask Jesse, the pit boss, is joining us from Liquid Loans to talk a little bit about why soundback coins are important, or why soundback coins are important, liquidity, KYC, stability pools. We're just going to dive into a few things, but of course, we're going to go through these quickly for you folks. But before we do, let's bring in the man himself to introduce. Hey there, Jesse. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Hello, everyone.
All right, Jesse. So, yeah, you're excited to dive into this. We're going to do our speed dating kind of blast through the topics, and then we'll come back for anyone who really wants to learn and dive into these properly. So, we've got about 7 points to blast through here. The first one is KYC, know your customer, really necessary?
I think it is for banking sort of platforms, central exchanges, things that deal with fiat. If you're dealing with fiat in large quantities and you have bank account numbers, routing numbers, etc., there's laws that require you to take some information from your customers. Some of those protect the customers. So, for example, you don't want people fraudulently like pretending to be people they're not and spending your money. So it protects, it protects from, theft. And there's anti-money laundering, and a number of things that banks have to do in their due diligence to make sure that they're not dealing with crooked thieves.
All right. So legitimacy, to cancel out crime, to keep you safe, all the same reasons the banks do it. All right. Now, our second point is, well, why can't I just go to an ATM crypto machine?
Well, you can. They do exist. They also KYC at those machines.
I didn't know about
that. So yeah, when you go in, you have to create an account first. Often, like, it'll give you instructions, and you can go on your phone and do a number of steps to create an account. Tell them who you are, and then you're free to put in some fiat, some dollar bills, and then get some Bitcoin, for example, in a wallet address. Those are good for marketing. The fees, the rate they charge you, the Bitcoin that you can buy through those ATMs, for example, is always like minimum 12% more expensive than you could get at a central exchange like Coinbase or crypto.com.
Wow.
Like,
so
it's a horrible rate.
Just paying
but
more
it is
to
good
KYC
marketing
anyway?
Because everybody goes to gas stations. Everybody sees these ATMs that are popping up all over the place. And if nothing else, it lets those people know that crypto is, heading towards mainstream, and it gets their minds in the right direction.
Okay. But it still does require the KYC.
Yes, I tried a couple of them, just to see what they're all about, see what the rates were like. And you still have to create an account and tell them who you are.
All right. So no getting around that to know your customer. Now, I mean, most people believe, money in their pocket, it's fine. It works. They can use it as store. Isn't it fine? Why do you need sound backing to currency?
Well, the amount of things that you can purchase with a US dollar is less and less year after year.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine like a cheeseburger at a drive-through place 20 years from now costing $100. Like, that's not unreasonable. Like, you could easily pay $10 or $8 for one now. 20 years ago, what were they? $1 to $2? So like, the purchasing power of the dollar just keeps declining, and I think that's because they just keep printing more and more and more of it, and it's really not backed by anything at all other than people's faith in it.
Yeah,
because more of it comes into existence, it's inflationary.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you can buy with it have to become more expensive.
Oh, it makes sense. Because, originally, before the 70s, before Nixon, it was sound-backed originally. You could technically trade your dollar at any federal bank for gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, it actually had power back then. All right. Liquid Loans is making a sound-backed stablecoin, USDL, and it's going to use lending to create that sound-back.
Well, it is a lending protocol that allows you to mint something called USDL.
Mm-hmm.
And this stablecoin, USDL, is not backed by a dollar. It's backed by a dollar's worth of something else. So imagine every single USDL is backed by a dollar's worth of pulse. Now you can change that to a seashell's worth of pulse or a peso's worth of pulse. Like there's always gonna be a number you can plug in there, but just because it makes sense to everybody, you go with a dollar's worth of pulse. In
So
that
Paul's
fashion, you keep it. You always keep it backed. It's always fully backed. And as pulse goes up in value compared to the dollar, then you're able to print more and more and more of these stable coins into existence, and still have every single one of them fully backed.
Perfect. So that basically replaces gold in the equation with pulse as the valuable asset.
Correct.
Perfect. All right. Gotta love that. Now, what does the stability pool in liquid loans do?
So whenever you have a collateralized asset where you put something in, you create something, you mint something else. There's always a risk that the thing that you put in as collateral, if it goes down in value, is no longer like if it goes down too much in value, there's a risk that it won't back the thing that you've created, the USDL. So there's always what's called a liquidation point where you've already got your USDL up front as a borrower. If your pulse was to fall all the way close to the level of what you've already minted, and you didn't take any actions, your pulse that you put in has to go somewhere else. Somebody else has to essentially purchase it, and your loan get closed out. So what the stability pool does, it's a bunch of USDL that's already in a giant pool, thousands of participants who are ready to burn some of that USDL in exchange for collecting some liquidated pulse. If pulse goes down in value, a borrower doesn't take any action and they lose their pulse because that borrower already got their USDL up front. So it's really just a mechanism that allows the purchase of pulse, to keep everything fully backed. That's one mechanism of many in the protocol that ensures that every single USDL is fully backed and redeemable.
Wow. That is beautiful. That is graceful even. All right. So how does the price pegging well, we went into the stability pool. So how does the price pegging specifically work?
The same way that it works with all stable coins, really. So stable coins are not stable just because they're called a stable coin. Hart's law shows that if you have an asset paired to another asset, they carry the same value across both of them. So if one of those things drops in value and that other thing is paired to USDC in that particular pool will also drop in value. There are times where you see USDC go from being worth very close to $1 to being worth 99 cents or 95 cents. In some extreme cases, 75 cents even.
Wow.
Okay. The only way to fix that value of that stablecoin is to change the ratio of what it's paired to. So if stablecoin USDC is paired to Ethereum does a 15% market dump. Okay, USDC just did a 15% market dump too. It's worth 85 cents at that point in time. Somebody has to purchase USDC and remove some of the USDC by depositing some Ethereum. So there's more Ethereum value in, supplying value to less USDC. They just change the ratios. And when they do that, it actually drives the price of USDC back up to $1.
Okay.
There has to be an incentive to do that, though. right? So if you see a cheap stable coin, the question becomes, because there's a lot of different stable coins, when comparing them all, you have to ask yourself, how fast can I get back to $1 if there's a market dump of the token that's on the other side of the pool?
Mm-hmm.
And liquid loans is a mechanism that makes it, that highly incentivizes people to change that ratio very fast, to always bring that ratio in line where USDL is always worth $1. And
Nice.
that's called the redemption mechanism.
Redemption
I can
mechanism.
explain that in detail a little bit later.
Beautiful. And the last one we'll hit quickly before we circle back around is knowing that you're the liquidity pool master. You make me even look pretty weak here. A lot of people like to trade market cap. So is a market cap better than liquidity?
No, market cap is, it's kind of funny because if I mint any random token right now, it could be a meme coin that doesn't actually have a function. I could mint 1,000,000,000,000 of them, and I could distribute them to, to everybody. I could airdrop them, whatever I want to do, get them out there, and then maybe I keep some of them, and I pair them into a liquidity pool. So I take 10 of them, and I pair them against 10 USDC. Okay. It's a really, really tiny liquidity pool.
$10. Yeah.
But now the value is $1. Every single one of those trillion tokens is worth $1 because the place where you can swap it is that liquidity pool I just created. I just created a $1 trillion market cap coin with only $10 worth of USDC. And the gas fee it cost me to mint those tokens, which is probably $250. So, like, no, market cap is
illusionary.
it is very, very illusionary. Now you have to like, I've pondered, how can we have a better way to gauge things than market cap? Now you could say, well, liquidity, how much liquidity is there?
Mm-hmm.
But even that's not perfect, right? Because you could have maybe you want low liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want something like Hex that has, relatively low liquidity so that when people are buying it, the price moves really fast, really hard.
Like right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't really say liquidity is a good metric to purchase something because low liquidity could equally go against you just as easily. If people are selling, the price dumps really fast, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So then you look at some things that have real thick liquidity, like tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars worth of liquidity, and the price barely moves at all when people are buying and selling because there's too much liquidity. So, like, how do you could make a metric that compares the total supply or the market cap versus the exit liquidity. You could create a metric like that to say, well, you got all these coins in existence. How much of it can actually get out of the system and move the price a certain percentage point, right? And create some sort of metric. It's really hard to do that. But really, what it boils down to, crypto goes up for one reason: people, more buyers than sellers. You have to have a good team. You have to have a good use case for your protocol. If it's going to last for a long time, it's got to have a good use case that people are going to want to use for years to come. And then you have to have good marketing. Now, there are coins that are amazing in the way their protocol works, but their marketing is horrible and they go nowhere. They literally head towards zero because like they spent all their money and their energy, their time, like making a perfect product, but then nobody knows about it. And they have no community and no hype and no excitement. Now, alternatively, you actually have coins that have really horrible use case, proof of weak hands, Safe Moon, exit tax, maybe a buy-in tax, an exit tax. You know, it's literally like it is like a Ponzi, a proof of we can. But they spend a lot of time and effort in marketing. So then what you end up with is like what people would consider a shitcoin that does a 60,000x because they had great marketing. But it always comes back to bite them at the end, because if the token actually doesn't have good functionality, good code behind it, you know, a good use case, like even if they had great marketing to begin with, it'll always peak out and it'll end up dumping. What you're looking for in a protocol is something that has the best of both worlds. It has awesome code, um, a great use case, and also great marketing and a great team behind it. When you combine that, then you get something that could just go up and to the right forever.
Nice. All right. No, that's a great outlook on it. That really is. And I mean, let's come back and dive back in on this some more. Before one last point before we keep going, let's talk on the Liquid Loans brand for a moment. And you rebranded on Twitter as Just Ask Jesse. Actually kind of reminds me of Ask Jeeves, if you remember
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in the day.
yeah. We
Except
talked about
cooler, much cooler.
that. Yeah, we talked about that. So, um, before loans was even uh, even a thing, I spent a lot of time um, in the Pulse Chain main chat with Reese, with ENB, with a bunch of people, just educating the community, trying to onboard people and explain. Liquidity pools was a favorite topic of mine. You know, we would speculate on what's going to make the price move, what the automated market maker bot was going to do, all sorts of things. And then we'd be in there with Papa B. He'd be talking about his hardware wallets and stuff. And like it made me feel good to know that I was onboarding people and answering people's questions. Now, along the lines, I had an opportunity to get involved with liquid loans and focus a lot of most of my energy into, all right, this is an awesome protocol. It's needed. We need a community driven stablecoin. I'm going to focus all my time and effort into this to educate the community. Okay. So for many months, that's exactly what I did. And I mean, there's just not enough time in the day to continue what I had been doing. Now that we're getting close to launch, we found it important that I get back to my roots of just being a guy who people can ask anything to. I may not always have the answers. I'll find the answers if I don't know them, because I want people to know. I always want to become more and more knowledgeable in crypto, as everybody else should. And I don't want to be the guy that is just known as, oh, he's just the liquid loans guy. Um, we still need educators. Liquid loans we have a habit of putting out content from other protocols, from you know, putting out videos every day that explain Pulse Chain and what are the other blockchains doing in comparison. We just want to be known as educators in this space who also have an awesome protocol for people to use.
No, I love and respect that because I didn't even realize your level of commitment. When I first met you, I thought you came in with the same group that's doing liquid loans, that you were financial back history and bank kind of motif. I didn't realize you were a community member like that, helping out. So that's actually very interesting to learn. And for me, when I reached out to you talking a little bit about the fact that I got going on YouTube, and you suggested I get in touch with Matt there. So, yeah, I didn't really think people would care what I had to say. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you've opened me up to a lot of things. So I have to thank you for that right here on air, and thank you again for coming on and trying to blast through these nice and quickly. So, before we go back and dive in these quickly, or maybe this will actually inspire some of the deep diving, why don't we do my little segment that I like to say. Cue the hate for the altcoins. Go ahead, spam the chat. Say you hate liquid loans. It's not RH. Scam. All right, great. Now you got that out of your system. Yeah, it was a trap. Now the mods have muted you, and we can actually field some serious questions. So Q&A time sound good, and then if we need to, we'll go back and touch on those subjects if the Q&A doesn't drag us through it. So let's see what we've got in the chat here. I'm going to start bringing these up. All right. J-Man, Colorado in the house. Welcome. Hexicat, or Liquidity already exists on Ethereum. Loans all the time. I check with another resource. Okay. What's up, Hexicans? Hey there, 10 top. All right. Blockchain trends, bullish on LL. How's it going, Jesse?
Doing well.
Let's see here. J-Man, LL's going to do very well. We don't actually... Oh, one question here at the end. All right. Staker app down for 3 days already. Well, that's I don't know if you know anything about that. I haven't even heard. All right. I guess we'll go back to the topics then. The chat was pretty empty. So let's get back up here. So let's talk a little more about KYC, if you don't mind. So this is a necessary evil, but I do say an evil because there are issues with KYC, and I mean the necessity of it is very practical, and you know a lot, but you also know a lot about the issues. And what caught me off guard the night we were talking was you were speculating some ways to actually improve KYC to make it better or more efficient or safer. So I was wondering, yeah, if you felt like deep diving into that right now.
Well, KYC, like, it's like a double-edged sword here, right? If there was no KYC, it would be the first place that all thieves and criminals go to launder their money, right? When they steal people's credit cards, when they, do the phone scams where they scam your grandma into giving up, $5,000 for some weird reason. Like all these scammers across the world, they would just funnel their money straight into platforms that don't have any KYC. As a company, and I'm not referring to liquid loans. Liquid loans is decentralized and immutable and can't be stopped and all that. But like banking entities have to at least have a ledger of a list of who their customers are, so that if anything happens in the future, if there's some sort of subpoena or some sort of federal investigation, some sort of terrorism thing, right? Police and those entities can refer to that list, and they see all the traffic that person has done. People don't like people in crypto like their privacy. Some people don't care, but people in crypto tend to like their privacy. But crypto is not the same as fiat. Fiat is literally paper dollars owned by a government.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to hold paper dollars and transact with paper dollars, like you're just subject to they want to know where their paper dollars are and who's spending those paper dollars so that they can weed out any potential criminals. Now, once you're in crypto, you're welcome to do whatever you want. You can hide yourself. I certainly wouldn't advise doing it to avoid taxes. Tax guy's always gonna come get you, no matter what.
Pay your taxes. Blockchain is very easy to analyze. Pay your taxes.
Right. And at some point, you're gonna have to exit some crypto back out to fiat, and like there's going to be KYC on that end. There's no way around it. In fact, companies that claim that they are going to offer a service that does not KYC, an on-ramp service that has no KYC, they're breaking the law and they will get shut down. The FBI or whoever is going to literally take their website down, try and figure out who those people are, and put them in jail. There have been tokens projects that have announced even that they're launching on Pulse Chain, and they say, oh, we're going to offer a no KYC fiat on-ramp. They're literally breaking the law across hundreds of countries, right?
Okay.
If they're able to pull it off, which they won't, right?
Wow.
So you literally have to be careful. There are ways to get into crypto without KYC that are not illegal. It's just there's a big fee that comes along with them, and they're a pain. You could use a gift card service. You go buy gift cards at Walmart, okay? You scratch that thing off. You enter the code into this website. The person on the other end, they collect the gift card. They it becomes their gift card, and they transfer Bitcoin to your wallet. And they charge you like a 30% fee to do that. You lose 30% of your money right off the bat.
Wow.
That's the price you pay for privacy. Wow. So it's a big pain. You got to go to Walmart. You got to get the gift card. You got to scratch it off. You got to do all this nonsense. But for what? What are you trying to hide that's so important that you're willing to give up 30% of your money just so you can on-ramp privately? It's ridiculous.
And then the off-ramp, again, you're not going to be able to buy gift cards with that crypto to get back out, are you?
Exactly. So then the other ways are like a peer-to-peer crypto exchange. I mean, you could go down to the guy in the street corner and hand him fiat dollars.
My first crypto buy was my friend in a handshake deal.
Right. And then he's going to be the one that transfers crypto to your wallet. So he's been KYC'd. So there's risk there, right? There's risk that you'll just get mugged because they know you've got a bunch of money that you're showing up with. The other risk is like if he gets rolled up because he's operating in, an illegal service or something, like, sure, he knows what you look like. He may not know what your name is, but listen, there's just so much risk when there's banks. We may not like fiat. Fiat is a fact of life. US dollar exists, and there's banks that we may not like, but they exist, and they have, they have their processes for moving money around. If you can't at least trust the bank for 10 minutes for you to be able to transfer your money into crypto, I mean, it literally takes 10 minutes to get your money into crypto. Maybe a little longer, right? The wire transfer time usually takes at least a half a day nowadays, but it's not. It doesn't take. Can you survive a half a day to have your money in crypto where you can self-custody and feel good about yourself? But you had to KYC. Listen, if you have a job, you KYC with your job. They know who you are, and they transfer money to your bank. Your bank knows who you are. Everybody knows who you are. What's the problem? You're going to take that money and you're going to put it into crypto, and then you can move it where you want and have your privacy from that point forward. But all this talk about I have this money, I want a KYC, or I don't want a KYC and get my money into crypto. How are you going to put the money into crypto to begin with?
Exactly. I like to joke.
It literally has your name on it.
Yeah. I like to joke my first buy was a handshake deal, but I had to KYC in afterwards. And every buy since has been very much know your customer.
Right. So literally the solution is use a reputable exchange, not a leverage trading exchange like KuCoin or something, or Bitmart. Use something like Coinbase or Kraken or something like that as your fiat gateway. Don't store all your money in there. Just use it to get your money through into self-custody where you can do things from your Ledger, Trezor, MetaMask, or whatever, and you're free at that point. But we are not going to ever change the banking system and KYC requirements.
No, it is a necessary evil, and that is, I doubt, going to change in our lifetime, other than maybe we'll get microchipped and GPS tracked. Who knows? But All right, let's hit. There's some more in the chat. So let's see if there's any questions in the chat, and then we could come back to the sound backing of money. Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we got here now. Where are the new comments? All right. Hey, fam, from Gen Hex. All right. Ask about how Jesse thinks USDL will perform as a stablecoin on Pulse Chain. All right, you want to dive right into that one for XCAT?
Yeah. I think USDL is going to be paired to a lot of different. I think you'll find it paired to other protocols. I think you'll see that Mitra will likely use it. I think that Power City is going to use it. I think that Fiat Aave fork people are going to use it. I Pulse Doge people. I think every protocol is going to have some sort of token pairing back to USDL because
Mhm.
it simply makes sense, right? It's
It does.
native, it's community run. The fees go right back to each other. How will it perform to other stablecoins? It'll hold its peg better than USDC or USDT. And there's the comfort in knowing that every single one of them is fully backed and redeemable, where some of the others are not.
So you can trust it is always valuable. I love that. All right. And then we've got another question from Robert O. Is there any update on the Liquid Loans testnet?
Yes,
Hmm.
I believe that we're about 1 to 2 weeks away from releasing our testnet version for everyone to play with. The reason, so I, we hear quite often when testnet. How come these other protocols have a testnet? How come you guys don't? Well, some of these other protocols have a testnet that's going to look nothing, and the code isn't even the same as what their final product is going to be. They just wanted to release something for people to play with. Some of those things are clunky or whatever. Okay. Here at Liquid Loans, we're getting through all of that. We're perfecting the product privately. We don't like to release anything to the public until it's absolutely perfect. Because when people review it, we literally want nothing but positive comments. Nothing but positive. You'll always have some haters, but like, why release something that you're still working on when you can just work on it and then release it and wow and amaze the community? So we release things when they're 100% ready. That includes our testnet version that people can play with, which will look and feel a lot like just like the mainnet version when it comes out.
Right on. All right. So that is definitely one heck of an update. 2 weeks, and we might actually get to play around with that. I'm excited. And J-Man wants to know if you'll be able to stake the USDL stack coin. Not sure I understand stack coin, but will you
Can
be
we
able to?
stake USDL coin? Yes. That's what the stability pool is. So you take your USDL
Mhm.
and you can go buy whatever you want with it in the ecosystem, or you can go to PulseX and turn it back into Pulse and extract it back out to Coinbase, however you need to. Or you can take it and just drop it into the stability pool, and that's going to earn you Pulse during liquidations, which hopefully are infrequent because people are making good decisions on their collateral levels. But it's also going to earn you a constant flow of loan tokens, which is the native coin of this protocol. Over time, you'll get less and less and less of those loan tokens because the emission rate decreases. But stake your loan tokens, yes, put them in the stability pool. It's a place to park your stable coins, but still earn a yield off of them. And that yield comes in the form of loan tokens that you can stake those also.
Nice. Very nice. So it's a back and forth staking system. So like you can earn USDL and then earn more loan token, then more USDL, just kind of an infinite loop, right? That's
Exactly.
amazing. That is amazing. All right. And then looks like Jen Hex just wants to shout out a hey to us. Thank you, Jen Hex. Then we've got Isaac R. Very confident, shouting out the 10,000x fact for liquid loans.
USDL, maybe loan token. USDL might just stay worth $1 all the time.
Yeah. USDL 10,000x. That's kind of not the point. It's supposed to never even 1x. It's like 0x. It just stays put. All right. Then we've got Coinbase and Goldman Sachs have announced Bitcoin backed loans for their customers. 60% LTV with interest and repayment terms. How does this compare to liquid loans? Wow, Muhammad, that's a good question.
Well, a lot of people don't like interest payments. Nobody likes to pay a monthly interest payment, and that money goes straight into the hands of Goldman Sachs over there. Okay. Liquid loans has no interest at all. It's a one-time borrowing fee at the beginning. It's very small, 0.5% typically. It does float, but it should hover around 0.5%. And that fee just goes to the stakers of the loan token, and that's it. That's all you ever pay as a borrower. If you borrow in something like Coinbase, you're going to have a monthly requirement to keep paying back that money. Like, it's just going to keep flowing into the hands of the bank. Also, because they have a 60% loan to value, you're putting in much, much more Bitcoin than you're able to get in whatever you're taking. And Bitcoin is highly volatile. Pulse could be highly volatile as well. But listen, Pulse is freshly launching. It's at the beginning. It's like it doesn't even exist yet, right? So we can assume that Pulse should go up and to the right over the next years. Bitcoin may go up and to the right, but it's gone up and to the right for like a decade now. Okay, so like you're going to take a loan out against that, and then watch as the Bitcoin goes down to 20 grand and you lose all that Bitcoin. Like, it's just a completely different model. So there's
Sounds
zero
like
repayment terms with liquid loans as long as you have more value in than you minted. Like you have, like, your collateral stays there. You got your USDL. Everything's good.
Yeah, and you guys recommend even a 1,000% collateralization rate as opposed to this, which is what, 60%?
Yeah, so that could be the liquidation point. I haven't researched that, but if that's the liquidation point, by the way, that's horrible.
Yeah, well, we'll have to look a little more at what that means. But
60% loan to value. Let's say you put in, 100,000 Bitcoin, $101,000 worth of Bitcoin. You take 60,000 USDL, or not USDL, USDC or something, and the value of your Bitcoin falls to 100,000, and you hit the 60% threshold, and you lose all your Bitcoin. You just lost 40 grand. Okay, that's what it tells me about 60% loan to value. There's always a liquidation point. So the liquidation point here means you're going to lose 40% of all your money. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just nasty. To me, it seems like Goldman Sachs just came up with a good scheme to trick people into giving them their Bitcoin for cheap discount.
Right.
But hey, that's just my speculation. So let's look at what else we've got here in the chat. Okay. Loan token. Oh, I think, that was an answer already addressed, not a question. Sorry. Let's see. Any more questions in this chat? We got something about loan as a native token. Okay. Yeah, so we will. All right, we can head back to the topics then for a moment. So let's see here. So we didn't really dive deep. We dove a little bit into the basics that, I don't know. Like for me, the history or the interest, like the American dollar had a lot of weight, a lot of value. It was easy to adopt because it was sound backed. It always had that gold backing. But then it was like once everybody was hooked, and then the U.S. was in economic trouble, Nixon just pulled a bait and switch and switched it over to fiat. So I mean, a lot of people, like I even misquote this because I'm erring on the side of less panic, and I say it's an average of 200 years before a fiat currency goes to zero, and somebody else I think corrected me and said 150 years. But the nature of just constant inflation, even at a controlled rate, and then even scarier, Mr. Powell, when he decided to print all of the money there for during the thing there, the when we had to all stay in our homes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said he's not even going to use a formula. He's going to eyeball it. I mean, if I said that to my math teacher, I'm not going to use a calculator. I'm just going to eyeball it. You know, I'm pretty sure I would have gotten an F on that paper. And then he's just sitting there in front of the entire nation saying, "Yeah, we're just going to keep an eye on it. We're not going to use a formula." So, I mean, the mess that we're in, like the importance of sound back, I strongly believe in this, but I want to hear your opinions on
it. Whenever you're trading one thing for another, like you want those two things to be close in value. If you're going to back something by another or make them redeemable for each other, you would want the same thing. So, like, let me give you an example. If you're gonna buy my, my car for 10 grand, I'm gonna want 10 grand of something. If we're gonna trade, you can trade me a tractor worth 10,000. You can trade me dollars that may be worth 10,000. I don't know, right? Like you always want to trade things of relatively equal value. Otherwise, this one person loses.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to borrow or you're going to back something by something else, the same rules apply. You want to have something held over here that's reserved, that's covering the value of this thing over here. And this thing over here is like locked away. And it's like that way, this thing that you made is always worth something. No matter what, you can always return this thing or burn this thing or whatever and get back the thing that you put in as collateral. Now, in the case of fiat dollars, what you have is long ago it was all backed by gold.
Mm-hmm.
It's supply, people had to mine it, so on and so forth. Like it was always redeemable back for something that everybody understood. But nobody understands dollars anymore because they're not backed by anything at all. All you have now is just a bunch of paper. And you have a guy who says, I'm just going to print more of it.
Mm-hmm.
So then trillions more come into existence. And then it's like, well, what is it worth? Like, how do you know the value of it if there's nothing backing it? So then over time, things get more expensive because there's too much money moving around. And like the price of everything just starts going up and up and up because if there's more dollars in existence, now things literally have to get more expensive. If we're sitting at a table and I said, we're going to use these seashells as our currency, okay? And over here, I have something to sell you. I have a cup of coffee. I say it costs one seashell for this cup of coffee. But then I take a big old handful of seashells and I drop them onto the table. And I'll
take all the coffee.
Hey, by the way, it's still only one seashell for a cup of coffee, even though there's all these extra seashells that you have. Like, it doesn't work that way. I have to make the coffee more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Proportionally to how many more seashells there are, right? So if I 2x the seashells, well, the coffee should go up 2x as well, really, because I have to get my fair share.
Mm-hmm. It took you time to make the coffee.
To be worth, it hasn't gone down in value. It's still the same thing. It was a cup of coffee yesterday. It's still a cup of coffee today.
Yeah. Took you
But now
5
there's
minutes to
more
brew yesterday. Took 5 minutes today. That's 5 minutes of your time.
right. Now there's more seashells in existence. So I'm going to need more of those seashells to cover that thing that hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
So with dollars, like there's just more and more and more of them in existence. So things have to get more expensive over time. Now, that's the problem with just endless minting, endless inflation. You actually see this problem in crypto as well with some protocols that have endless inflation. And then you see the value of the asset itself just go down and down and down and down and down. Basically, everything else around it is becoming more expensive in comparison. It's the same problem that the fiat dollar has.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so you see this with Olympus DAO, you see this with Strong and some of the nodes and stuff that have runaway inflation. Like it's the same thing. Inflation, uncontrolled inflation, will make everything else around it get more expensive, or make that thing get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Yep.
USDL, there's no inflation of USDL. There's no. It's literally you put in Pulse, and you can mint against the value of that Pulse some USDL.
Well,
as Pulse goes up in value, more USDL comes into existence. As Pulse goes down in value, people are paying back their loans. Less USDL will be in circulation. It literally will float with the value of Pulse. There's no inflation. Every single one of them is fully backed. And that's how everything should be. At least that you want to be stable.
So the only technical inflation is the fact that the value of Pulse has inflated, so there can be more USDL.
The
or
value
more has been added. Like if the Pulse goes up in value,
has
then you can mint more.
appreciated.
Yeah,
The value of
appreciated.
Pulse has appreciated.
Yeah, that's a better
Which
term.
means now you can mint more USDL into existence and still have them all fully backed.
No, so that gets right away from the inflation. That's beautiful. We've got a few more comments. Let's see what we've got here. All right. We've got Alsamac 888. What up, fellas? Another shout out here. A1 get some. Hey guys, good work. Thank you. Mohammed, happy with our answers. Oh, Crypto Freedom, thank you so much. Gently tap the like button. Show your support. Thank you so much, Crypto Freedom. That is awesome. Great content, guys. Thank you. These aren't questions, though. We're supposed to be fielding questions. Okay, just because something on Testnet doesn't mean that's what you're gonna get. We got Jenny, welcome, the one female viewer I have. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's see. Towards C Johnny has made it. Thank you, man. Do we have a question here? I sacrificed from the avalanche chain. Am I still good? I think it was a hasty move.
Hexacat, if you're listening, help that guy out. Get him in touch with Scottish Dave in the Telegram.
There we go. Maybe there'll be some hope.
No expectations. Scottish Dave is a good guy.
All right. So Tortoise Johnny, that is Scottish Dave you're looking for. All right. And now, Isaac R wants some thoughts on FEI.
Yeah. So Faye. Faye is quite a bit different in how it works. In a liquidation, it takes the liquidated asset and it sends it straight to Uniswap and dumps the price further, which further impacts the other people who have collateralized. And it could cause something called cascading liquidations. Liquidations go straight to the market and get dumped immediately. like in code by the protocol.
Oh, wow.
So like that's a problem. So what Liquid Loans has done, like it's recognized that that's a problem. So instead, that's why the stability pool exists, so that that doesn't have to happen. Fei also uses a technique called reweighting. By the way, the collateral they use is stupid and super thin liquidity. Like we're using Pulse, which has hundreds of thousands or maybe 100,000 token pairings. So it's like really hard to manipulate the price. But the collateral over with Fei, like it's super easy to manipulate and wreck people, and it's just stupid.
So I want to actually dive a little deeper on this because I mean, okay, thin collateral and cascading liquidations. This sounds very frightening to me, but I've sat through a cascade failure on Windows 98. I understand the terminology. I can see the picture being painted, but I'm afraid the audience might not even realize what cascade liquidations would do to a market, what that could look like, what kind of bloodbath horror show the opening lobby scene from The Shining that is. Can you help me paint a picture for them?
Yeah. So first I'll explain what a cascade outcome looks like, and then I'll explain how it works.
All right.
So what happens at the end of a cascade is all the money from hundreds or thousands of borrowers has all disappeared and has gone straight into the hands of one or two people, the people who manipulated the price to begin with. Okay, so it literally usually transfers millions upon millions of dollars worth of the collateral to like one or two, like a handful of people. How does it work? It's easiest to explain this with a like a central exchange. So let's say that you have all these people that have either leveraged positions or some sort of loan or something, and there's always a liquidation point. If the value of their collateral falls to a certain point, a certain value, they're going to lose their collateral. It's going to go away. All right. If that collateral goes straight to a mechanism that further dumps the price immediately, the collateral itself gets a little cheaper and it liquidates the next guy. His collateral goes into the system, gets dumped on the market, the price moves down even more. And it starts to compound where the price just slowly starts to fall off this cliff, because as this guy gets liquidated, the price dumps and it dumps and it dumps and dumps, and it keeps liquidating all these people very fast. This normally happens on a central exchange like KuCoin or something like that, literally in seconds.
Oh,
Seconds. You see these things that people like to call scam wicks, where it's like, oh, the price is doing whatever. What's this big, huge, long red wick that like goes almost all the way to zero? What is that thing? That's a cascading liquidation. Usually it's through a little bit of manipulation, partly by the exchange or by some big whale who will dump the price just a little bit, enough where they see a cluster. They see a cluster of people all collateralized around the same level. So they'll wait for the price to get really close to that level, and they'll dump. They'll dump on the market just enough to get through that little cluster of people, right? So the price will just go, it'll get through that cluster of people. All those coins get dumped on the market, and it literally tanks the price, and it liquidates everybody else in the system. Everybody just lost all their money, and that whale just took everyone's money.
and then
That's
scoops
called
it
a
all.
cascading liquidation.
Wow.
Fei runs on the blockchain, and it does the same thing. It just uses Uniswap as its mechanism to do that.
That is brutal. That is so
We don't
brutal.
want cascading liquidations. They're really bad. The normal term for them that you'll hear Richard Hart use is scam wicks. We don't like scam wicks in our community. So what Liquid Loans does is it completely eliminates the ability for a scam wick by having this thing called a stability pool that's there to pick up the liquidations instead of them going straight to the market and dumping and causing that cascading liquidation.
All right. So we've got another question up here. And I always, before a question like this, like to reiterate, we are not financial advisors. So how do we cash out USDL loan without creating a taxable swap event?
Every swap is a taxable event. But what's taxable? Gains.
Mm-hmm.
If you swap $570 worth of something for $570 worth of something else, where's your gains? You had zero gains in that swap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just because it started from a loan, guess what? A loan is not taxable. So if you took a loan and then you swapped the loan for something else, as long as, first off, your USDL isn't running up in price 10x in the time that it takes. Like, you get your USDL and then you go swap it. It's not running up in price. So literally your USDL, you swap it for something else. There's likely no gains there. It was a loan. It's still a loan. There's no gains. You go back through the bridge with wherever you need to, send it to Coinbase, and you had zero capital gains. Gains are what's taxed. Not because let me explain it a little differently. Go get a loan from a bank. That money will show up in your account. That's not taxed. Now, if you choose to swap that into crypto, you don't instantly pay tax on all that money. Or if you choose to go buy pesos with that, you don't instantly pay tax on all that money you got from the bank. It's still a loan. Now, if the thing that you bought with that crypto or with that loan you got from the bank goes up in value and you made a bunch of gains and then you sold that thing that you bought, you will have to pay taxes on the difference. But the loan itself is not taxed. The amount of the loan is not taxed.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Let's see here. Oh, does that make Jay Powell the inflation bug of the fiat Ponzi? Mohammed, you are on fire. I have a special hate for Jerome Powell, so that makes me very happy. That's I can't paint the picture better than myself. Jerome Powell is an inflation bug, and yeah, that's going to be a nightmare. Okay. I hope be millionaire with liquid loans. What you thinking?
I hope you become a millionaire as well.
I hope that for you as well. All right. Now, Hollywood Woodhart.
Let's go through some moon math.
Some moon math? What, my math?
Moon math. Let me go through some moon math.
Oh, you want to hit some moon math. All right. This should be good.
So, I love this example. I give it often.
Okay.
The trick to amass wealth, if you're holding an appreciating asset, is literally to never sell it. Now you'll hear people say, "Oh, you'll even hear Richard say, you could have sold on a double, sold on a double, sold on a double." Let's talk about that for a second and why that's actually not going to get you very much when you sell on a double over and over. Let's say you started with $20,000 worth of an asset. And I also start with $20,000 worth of an asset. To some, that's a lot. To some, that's just, not a whole lot. But 20 grand's a good number to start with. All right. Now, let's say I'm going to hodl and I'm never going to sell. At least for a really long time. You're going to say you've heard sell on a double over and over so many times that you think it's a good idea. Okay. All right, cool. The price doubles, you sell half your bag on a double. You just took 20 grand out and you have 20 grand left of your asset. Price doubles again. Guess what? You still only have 20 grand you take out if you sell half your bag and you still have 20 grand worth of your asset. You could do that 10 times and you've taken out $200,000 and you have 20 grand worth of your asset left still. your original bag size in dollar values is the same as it was at the very beginning. You were able to extract 200,000. Now, if your coins, remember, you're shrinking your coin count as you're doing this. So you're maybe it was 100 coins to begin with or something. They went to 50, then they went to 25 coins, 12 and a half coins, 6 and a quarter coins. And after 10 times of doing this, you had literally less than one single coin. You had a fraction of a coin left. And that coin just happened to be worth 20 grand after 10 doublings. Okay? But that's all you have to show for it. $220,000 because you moved some of it in a stable coin as you sold on a double 10 times. Now let's compare that to me, who said, I'm not going to sell on a double. I'm not going to take profits. I believe that this asset is going to possibly be volatile, but I'm just never going to sell it because I know, years from now, it's going to be much more expensive than it is today. So during the same time period, I do nothing. My 20 grand became 40, became 80, became 160, became 320. After 10 doublings, I have $20,480,000 worth of the same asset that you ended up selling. So you have $220,000 to show for it, and I have $20.5 million to show for my never selling. Can't hear you.
Sorry, the mic was off. Sorry, I was just saying, 20,960,000, I believe. But yes, like the doubling.
That's the power of never selling. Now, the trick with that is that it's psychologically way too hard to go that long without taking some profits. If all I did was put in 20 grand into Pulse, and I'm looking in my MetaMask and I have over $20 million worth of Pulse, like, I'm probably going to want to do something with it. I'm going to want some of that. So the question becomes, how do I get the money out but still maintain my original coin count so that this actually continues to work? Well, that's why you just lend against it. You put some in at a safe collateral level and you say, oh, I've got 20 mil. I'm not going to put all of it in the vault, but maybe I'm going to put a couple $1 million worth of that in the vault. I'm going to mint myself, 500 grand, 600 grand. And as the value goes up, mint a little more, mint a little more. Heck, you could even put in 5 mil into the vault and mint yourself, 4 point, whatever mil, and let it liquidate if the price, like, at least have a chance of keeping it. And if it happens to liquidate, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, you still captured all that value, and you got that USDL up front. You just had a good stop loss.
I actually had a question about that because back to cascading failures. So who cares about letting that liquidate? It won't trigger a cascade, right? Like, that's the beauty of the liquidity or the stability pool.
Correct, because in the event of a liquidation, the pulse from that vault gets spread across thousands and thousands of stability providers who all pick up just a little bit of that pulse. Right, so each of their accounts just goes up a fraction of pulse, a little bit. Right, it's not one guy who's collecting tons and tons and tons of them. I mean, you could have a whale being a stability provider who might get a large percentage of that pulse, perhaps, but certainly not all of it. It gets spread across the community. So the likelihood at that point that all those thousands of people are going to withdraw $1 or 50 cents or $10 for the pulse and just immediately go dump it all at the same time, like, are very small. It's much more likely, actually, that those people would potentially withdraw that pulse and go add it to their own collateral position if they have a loan, increase their own collateral health with it. So will some of that end up getting dumped? Sure. Yeah. There may be people who they're like, oh, look, some liquidations happen. I made $5 worth of Pulse today, and they go dump that on PulseX. But it's like, it's certainly not the same as like what Faye does, where all of the liquidated Pulse goes straight to Uniswap and dumps.
Yeah, no pool there to catch anything. All right, let's see here. Oh, yeah. Sam has a question here. What will be the proposed APY of liquid loan staking? I don't think there's a fixed APY. That depends on the lending,
No,
right?
there's no proposed, there's no vote, there's nothing like that. It's completely dependent on the volume and the value of Pulse and the size of the loans that people are taking. So as Pulse goes up in value, it appreciates. The loans will likely get bigger and bigger and bigger. There's no way to know. Now, over on Ethereum chain, staking of the Liquidity token, probably around 40%, depending on when you got in. Some people are experiencing like 200 some percent, but average, I'd say like 40%.
Okay.
There's no way to know until Pulse Chain launches and we launch. It could be insane with price appreciation of Pulse. It could be insane.
We'll have to wait and see. All right. And then Robert O wants to try and milk us for some price predictions, it looks like, for liquid loans and Pulse 1 month post launch. Oh man, I'm just gonna tell you, it's gonna look like the Wild Wild West. I think it's gonna look like the sound wave oscillations if you look at a rock and roll song. I am not making any predictions. I don't know about you, Jesse.
Well, I've always thought that 90 days could see a 250x, and I know that sounds ridiculous. If we get the right adoption, I mean, all these other blockchains have performed exceptionally well over their first year or two of existence. I mean, you've got chains that have done thousands of X, chains that have done 800x, 600x, 250, 300x, and they all started empty. So as long as we can get the word out and people from Ethereum actually start flooding over and seeing what's going on, like we could see some insane numbers in the first, 3 to 6 months of existence. It certainly helps that different people are building things on the chain. Like the more the infrastructure is already there and ready to go, the more enticing it is for people to come and play around and start using Pulse Chain. So I don't know. I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. All right, which stable is stronger, algorithmic or treasury backed?
Certainly. Well, when you say treasury backed, usually those protocols. I have dogs barking in the background. I don't know if you can hear
I can hear that.
A lot of times those treasuries never go towards like sustaining their protocol. Like the money just sits in there and it never like sustains the value or price of anything. With hold on. Sorry. Algorithmic. If you look at the vault as a treasury though, like each person is minting their own USDL that's fully backed by their own little treasury of Pulse, their own little vault. Okay, so it's almost like a combination of it. It's algorithmic that like everything functions on its own with no human intervention, but it still has like these things called vaults that store the value of the backing for each of the USDL. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, I think from now we've got a thanks, Jenny and Hex. All right, so it looks like he got in touch. Little catch up on that. I think he got a hold of Scottish Dave. So little good done in this video for sure. That's it for the questions at the moment. Why don't we take a quick break and and get to know each other a little bit. So they get to know you around here. So Jesse, yeah, you're obviously a crypto superhero. You got your cape going around. You came from Krypton. You're an alien. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in crypto just a few years, right? I actually bought Bitcoin back in like years and years and years ago. I didn't know what I had. When Coinbase first became a thing, I jumped in there. I was doing some investment stuff in Fidelity. I heard about this thing called Coinbase. I bought some Bitcoin years ago, and then I held it for like some months, and I was like, "What is this thing?" I sold it, and I didn't come into crypto until just a few years ago. On the personal side, I'm retired from the military. I was a Green
Oh,
Beret.
wow. Thank you for your
I've been all over
service.
the world. I speak one other language fairly fluently. I've forgotten some. I used to speak a couple languages. That has nothing to do with crypto, other than maybe building some communities, right? Winning over hearts and minds and building communities was, a big task of being a Green Beret when you go in various places of the world. So when I came into um, crypto a few years ago, it wasn't too much longer. I found Hex. I found the Hex community, and then um, I started building a community of people that I thought meshed well together. So a lot of um, the influencers that we like to watch in the Hex community, I started pulling them into a Telegram group that's called the Vault. Um, a lot of the people who were participating, onboarding people, and helping educate people, I would pull all these people into the Vault, and we'd all kind of hang out in there. So we'd go into the Pulse Chain main chat. We'd say the same things over and over and over as we educate new people, but we needed breaks. So you'd find guys like Jay or Walrus or myself, like we'd always retreat back to the Vault, where we always had a voice chat going, and we can kick back and we can laugh, and we can discuss ways to better the chain. And we didn't hold anything back. We talked about things we didn't like about the community, things we did like about the community. And it evolved into, like, we all had these great ideas for different projects. So this room has around 100 people or so. And it's interesting because there's probably like 10 protocols that have evolved out of this. There's some OGs in there, there's some influencers, and like this community, like a lot of these people were very maxi at the very beginning, but we've all come to realize, wow, we actually need the chain to work. We need things to exist on the chain. And all these people started branching off and like building their own little teams and building their own protocols. So it was really it's been a real pleasure to see this kind of evolve. And I'm not going to say I took credit for any of that. If I didn't have the Vault, like there would have been another group. There are other groups that people are hanging out in. But in that group was Christian and Dave and Abra and Jay and Toshi and a bunch of these other people who have, you know, evolved this idea of liquid loans, all the way from like a long time ago when we started talking about how to unbank ourselves from banks, and how do we make a financial infrastructure inside of the Pulse Chain community, where everyone gets the benefit. And like the whole thing kind of really evolved a lot through like crypto crazy, just like trying to hammer it into our heads. Hey, you need to check out this thing called Liquidity. Check it out. And we ignored him for a while. And then finally, when he like forced us to sit down and look at this thing, we're like, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful protocol. It was missing one of the key elements that I talked about earlier, and that was like a a community. And we knew if we were to fork this thing, we already had a community that we could build relatively easily, and then we'd be able to have a community-driven stablecoin on Pulse Chain. So, my role became, the growth and adoption guy, the guy that was running around trying to build that community of people and educate people. Come on streams like this, go talk to people, do AMAs everywhere. I'm still doing all this, but just hammer it into everyone's head how beautiful this protocol is and what it does for the community. So that was my role. And then you've got
Nice.
Abra, who became, the technology guy, the guy who's talking with the devs every day, who's really built this thing. Then you get Dave, who's the marketer, who's putting together all the marketing plans for this. And he's worked with the guys to build the website and the DApp and the way it looks and feels for the community. Then you've got Crypto Crazy, Christian. He's pulling it all together and managing it all from his chief position. He's a great organizer, so he's making all this stuff happen. And then pulled in Jexa. Jexa's great with technology and education, and knows a lot of people in this space. So we just started building our team. And everybody's so unique, right? I'm not a dev, but it doesn't matter, right? I've built a community. You've got Abra. He's not a dev, but he knows how to talk to these devs. And he, when him and I talk, we know what the community is looking for. You put all of us together, we're so different in who we are. And then you get a group of really good devs that are working with us. And what you end up with is like something a lot of teams don't have. Sometimes all you have is a team of devs that have no idea how to build a community or put together YouTube videos or instructional this or that, or the project ends up failing. Then sometimes you get you just have to have a team that's really well-rounded. That's what it comes down to. And I think that's what we've done. So what are your questions?
Well, I'll say diversification. Like that's the key word there, I think, because over specialization will be a hindrance a lot of times. Like that's the key. Like a bunch of devs don't know how to do the YouTube, and you're at a loss. So it looks like we had a call out here. Hexycat wanted to say there's 181 members in the vault now. And then we had a question from Juicin' Vibes. Benefits of liquid loans versus staker. Can they be used together? Explain for dummies.
Yeah, they can be used together. They're two completely different things. So liquid loans is a stablecoin factory. It's a place for people to create stablecoins for the Pulse chain. And then as people are creating those, the fees for creating those goes to the stakers of the loan token. What Staker app does is right now it's designed primarily for Hex. You buy Hex and you can stake it easily through the Staker app. And you could do some light swaps of tokens in there. Could they be used together? Yes, actually. So Liquid Loans will be releasing what's called an SDK, a package that developers can download and put into their own front ends so that they have a little tab or whatever that they can run Liquid Loans functions right from their dApp. So if Staker app wanted to download that and add that and have a little tab on their Staker app, you could buy USDL on Staker app. You could do your stuff with Hex. You could sell your Hex interest, do whatever you want. And you could say, oh, wait, what about my Pulse over here in my vault? And click a little button and then go run all your Liquid Loans functions right inside of their dApp if they wanted to.
Wow. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. We've got another one here from Sam. Is it possible to list USDL with centralized exchanges? Will this technically work as it's pegged to PLS?
Yes, DAI is listed on exchanges all over the place, and it's backed by ETH.
Nice.
And by the way, for people who don't realize this, like the Maker protocol is what
Mm-hmm.
creates DAI.
Mm-hmm.
You put ETH into a contract, you mint yourself some DAI. Sounds very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, you
It
put
does.
Pulse into a contract, you mint yourself some USDL. It's really not any different. What is different after that point is how the liquidations work. But yeah, it certainly can. And we have already talked to a couple that would like to see Pulse exist before the communication continues.
All right. All right. That is some beautiful information to find out. And all right, I think we're pretty much caught up on the questions in the chat at this point. I got to commend you. You've been going for 81 minutes. Power dive into this topic material. I'm loving it. All right. Let's see here. Was there any other topics you wanted to hit here? Was there anything we should go back and talk on? I think we've deep dove into a lot of it.
I think we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm like, wow, I'm actually finally running out of things to cover or talk about. I think we've really kind of beat liquid loans to beat the horse to death here, so to speak. If people haven't figured out why this is good. I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit more economically, like again, so sound back currency, like a lot of people don't realize like collateralized debt is basically what backs the current currency. It's madness. But I mean, the inherent issues, like I see the USDL as it gets paired throughout the network because it's so stable, so easy to trust. It inherently brings more value to the Pulse ecosystem that it even has its own soundback coin. Like the back and forth stability and asset function, like it really reinforces the self-contained ecosystem. So the way I see it is like even if the US dollar crashes, and I mean USDL, USDC are technically worth a lot less because of that crash. I mean, USDL is pegged, but inherently the value there is stronger. I guess I can't figure out how to put it into words.
Yeah. So let me word it like this.
Okay.
It's good that the Pulse chain ecosystem will not be reliant on external things for it to function as a chain with a stablecoin, right? So we're not reliant on Circle with USDC. We're not reliant on Tether. We don't need those central parties for us to function and do what everyone does in the blockchain environment because we have our own community-driven stablecoin that will be fully functional and fully backed and fully redeemable. Wouldn't we like? We all would much rather have something like USDL where we're driving that. This is our ship as a community, and especially once it's listed on exchanges. Like, why use USDC, which is highly fractionally reserved and it's run by a central entity who has not your interest at heart? Like, they're there to make money. Why would we subject ourselves to pairing tokens to that? So, for example, if the primary pairing for Hex is USDC, why would we want that? If we have a community-driven stablecoin that's backed fully by Pulse, and you have this thing that's $1 USDL, and a Hex USDL becomes your primary pairing instead of USDC. And the same with all these other protocols. Like, many of them have already talked to us and said they're going to choose USDL over USDC. This is how it should be. And the act of doing this is locking away Pulse. It's not really a buy and burn, but it's like the lockup system of Pulse, where it's literally taking more and more Pulse off the market, so people aren't dumping it and selling it. Imagine all the USDC that people would want for their various liquidity providing.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to use USDC, they have to sell. They have to go sell some Pulse to acquire some USDC. And it just hurts the price of Pulse to get it. Well, here, you can just mint USDL against some Pulse, and it doesn't hurt the price of Pulse in doing so. And now you have a community-driven stablecoin that you can go create all your stable pairings to. Like, it's beautiful.
It really, really is. And I constantly can't say it enough. I'm so happy the FCC is in a coma because, I mean, liquid loans isn't just another token. It really is. It's an element of a brand new financial system and financial economy that could help stabilize, in my eyes, stabilize or replace like some of the needs for the Federal Reserve and their manipulation if it was done right.
Mm-hmm.
Like the potential there is just what excites me so much. So I
Right.
thank you again so much for coming on here tonight to talk to everyone. Is there anything else you wanted to tell the audience before we let you go for the evening? Any points to check out, like your channels, your YouTube, your Twitter?
Yep. Join the Telegram, t.me/liquid loans. There's always tons of people chatting and helping each other out in there. The voice chat, the admins try and keep voice chat open almost all day long, so people can ask questions. When we release information, like that's the first place that goes. We drop it in our Telegram so everyone can see. But also visit the website.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much content on that website, it's insane. Liquidloans.io.
Liquidloans.io. I should pull that up quickly for a quick screen share. Just give me a moment, just so everyone can see that. Okay, almost there.
Also, while you pull that up, Alan Thick says he's about the future of liquid loans.
Okay.
Well, you're going to see all sorts of neat things come out. You're going to see a Gnosis safe that the community can use. You're going to see our validator. You can go participate with delegating with the validator now on Testnet. You're going to see all sorts of rewards that are paid out to people for liquidity providing, perhaps, or stability providing, or maybe some cool things that come out of delegating. You may see a fiat on ramp. We're working through some things for direct fiat on and off ramp. And there's always going to be more. Our ecosystem is going to keep growing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The way I kind of been describing it to people is imagine you're already on a transport truck driving down a highway, and that's Ethereum's economy, but you're building a Autobot on top of it, and then Bumblebee's going to jump off, transform, and drive ahead of that transport truck. I like to paint pictures with words. All right. And Fiat is planning to adopt USDL in their ecosystem. Any update from your side?
Yep. So that's pretty cool because they have an Aave fork, right? So you'll be able to put in tokens and receive a loan against those. So Hex is an example. You put Hex in there, take a loan out against that. Well, what do you want to get? Do you want to put Hex in and get PulseX as your loan? Probably not. Do you want to put Hex in and get like some random other PRC20, Pulse Doge as your loan? Probably not. Usually when people take a loan, they get some sort of stable coin. So it absolutely makes sense to use USDL, fully backed and redeemable, as one of the things that you're able to get when you take a loan.
No, it does. I can't thank you enough for the value that this protocol is bringing. Like, I'm glad you guys just sat around there going, we're sitting in our computer chairs watching our crypto go up. How are we going to fill the time? Let's figure out ways to make it better. Like, thank you. Thank you for sitting around that chat and coming up with all this. This is absolutely amazing. So thank you again for coming on. If there's any big updates and you ever want to come back, this has been a pleasure. You are always welcome on my channel, sir.
All right, cool. After our testnet comes out, our DApp, people are going to go wild over that. So we may have to get on and play around with that on your stream.
Oh, that would be amazing. I would love that, sir. Thank you so much. And all right, with that, yeah, Jesse, you have a great night. Thank you for joining us. Just shout out to the audience again. If you've stuck with us this far, and I see there are still 38 viewers, if you're not already aware, my name is pretty much everywhere. I even got TikTok now. So you can find me on Telegram. There's a channel there, but I blasted so quickly making them. Inside of that, there's a link for a chat that's actually used, Top Gun Game Theory, where you can actually comment. And you can find me on Twitter. So also, yeah, I'll mention to you, Jesse, when I got going on Telegram, I made a few different chats, and I saw you left the one because nothing ever happens in there. I've got another one. I just didn't want to spam you. If you'd like in, I can send you a link for that.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you there answering questions because we're a little more dangerous. We talk third party there. So need somebody to keep the room safe sometimes, if you don't mind.
All right. Yeah, send me a link.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure. You guys make me enjoy doing this, even though I do it for free around a full-time job. So thank you again for tuning in, folks. Until then, see you next time.
See you.